Well, lads, this is going to be the start of a new series I'm going to do where I'm going to discuss all my production techniques, how I go about making my beats, what software do I use, what plugins do I use, all that sort of stuff. So each episode's going to have a specific technique in it. So this one's going to be about time stretching, but I'll probably do ones on sample choice, drums, plugins for creative use rather than just mixing, all that sort of stuff. Let's get into it. All right, so lads, to time stretch in Ableton anyway, there's a few ways we can do it. This is our clip now, so this is what I'm going to be using. A very simple, very basic loop, you know. So, easy to time stretch. Ableton is shift and left click, and you just pull it out then. You have to make sure this warp button's on, first of all. This is all your warping section. Probably, I'll put it up here so we can see it a bit bigger. This is your most important section here. You have your warp on or warp off. You want to have it on, naturally. Then you have your mode. They're kind of self-explanatory, but you can get creative if you kind of ignore the perceived kind of use of them. Most of the time, you're going to be in Complex Pro. Then you have your speed up or slow down. That's pretty self-explanatory. Just speed it up by 2 times, slow it down by 2 times. It just tells you how fast it is right now. Pitch up or pitch down, very useful when you're, editing audio in general. So what I usually like to do with time stretching is to take one piece of the audio. So let's just cut out one note. So we've one note now. Make sure it's in warp. Click the edge of the clip and then pull it out. And you'll know if you're doing it right because you'll see it stretch. And eventually you get to the limit. I just kind of pull it out like that. Try and kind of listen to it. Maybe even stretch it out. Or not stretch it out, but pull the clip over to the right to see if there's any other interesting parts. Maybe you just want to get this sound here. If you get another sound in there, you can time stretch that too. Alright, I'm getting distracted here though, so let's go back to this. So you have your one note here. If I can play it. So to me, that still sounds too similar to the original, so I would even go about time stretching that more. Maybe cut off the start like that. My next step then would be to go kind of through the modes, see which one I like the best. Start off with the tones because the beats one is just not really gonna do it for what we want. I like that. I like it higher, I think, the grain size. Yeah. So then if you want to keep experimenting, but obviously we like that sound, so we want to keep that sound. If we want to keep experimenting, we'll just go in here, make a new audio track, go in, select 2, because that's the one we're on here, it's number 2, and then record it in. Now you have the track, but you can also go back and keep working on this. And we'll label this like stutter bell. Just keep it tidy. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you're making a lot of sounds from the one sound, then that could be handy. So let's try the other ones now. Yeah, so you can get slight variations on them. I think it sounds alright. It's kind of similar to the other one though, so I'm going to leave that. Let's go back to Complex Pro. Because I think that is actually interesting, especially if you start to add effects. Let me just grab the Ableton reverb just so you can follow along. And then from that you have, I'd probably use that as like an impact. Or if you want to play them together even. Maybe we could pitch this down. Then maybe we could even duplicate this, shift it over a bit, and maybe pitch it around. Let's just try a 4th. Maybe add even one more. And bring that up to a full octave. Let's bring them closer together and bring that one in. Maybe turn down the volume a bit. I'm gonna bring these 2 closer. You can even group all of them together and add the reverb across them. I'm actually going to keep it out of the last one though. So then you can start to kind of get the idea. You can kind of mess around, and maybe we'll pitch all of these down like a few semitones. It's kind of dissonant. I kind of like that. It's kind of a cool atmosphere. Just from that, just from this one note here, we got that. So that's one way we can go about time stretching. But let's go even further, because we can go further. If you're at your limit, you can just press Shift J, and that'll consolidate the clip, and you can see it brings it back to 89 BPM. So you can just grab the edge and time stretch again, and it'll be just as time stretched as if there was no limit. So now let's hear what we have. Yeah, so I think that's a very cool texture. You can start to come in, and maybe if you want, you can put it in a sampler even, and mess around with the different chops. Yeah, let's leave it there. 1 second now. That's another way to get some sort of melodic thing. Even though it's kind of all a similar note, you can hear the differences in timbre kind of. As you can see, there's a lot you can do with it. All right, let's move on to a different example. All right, so for my next time stretching technique, we're going to use a drum loop just to kind of get different ideas, because I find drums is kind of a hard thing for a lot of people to get texturing in, because it's not like a synth, because a lot of synths have a lot of texture already, or you can just layer them and get lots of texture. I feel like drums, you need to be creative with it if you want to get really nice bounces and kind of rhythms and stuff like that. So let me show you a few of the things I do, try and achieve that. So here's the original we got. If you start off with good sounds, I always say you can never really go wrong. So what I would do is I'd kind of clip each of the sounds individually. Doesn't really matter how sloppy you are with this, but and then you can kind of experiment with each of the sound individually. So this is what we got. So let me just pull that out. So even with beats, you can kind of get some really like, you could even do something like this, where you go. You could even use this like a type of hi-hat, just something simple like this, you know. So even just from that, you can kind of create something interesting, you know. If I was doing kicks in the sound design sense though, I'd probably go with, treat it almost like a, you can hear there's almost a note appearing in there when you stretch it. And it's giving you this kind of metallic-y texture, which is, I find, very interesting for sound design. Let's get rid of the transient. And you kind of get these weird glitches in there as well, which you can try get out of it, but sometimes I just like to leave them in. Let's pitch it down. It disappears when you pitch it down then. So that's almost like a faller that you can put in somewhere. Yes, you could do that, or you can take a little snippet out of it. Maybe pitch it up as well. Pitch shifting goes hand in hand with time shifting for me. See, now we have ourselves a little pluck that we could use for some melody type thing if we wanted. Throw it in the simpler. How much did I pitch it up there? 19, so that's like 2 octaves. Let's just add some effects just so we can get a better idea of what it would be like. You even see with the OTT some other artifacts starting to form. So you can see there how you can get some really interesting artifacts just from messing around with a few parameters in terms of pitch shifting, time stretching, and OTT and different effects like that. Here's our original hi-hat. Let's go Complex Pro. Yeah, it's really good if you're trying to make some industrial type sound effects, I find. The time stretching. Let me just chop some of it out. Yeah, so you can start to get some really freaky stuff in there, if that's what you like. Maybe that sounds crap to you, but I guess you wouldn't be watching my videos if that was the case. Alright, so let's see now if we can find another example that might be interesting. For the last example, I picked out a drums and melody thing. So we might get some more interesting ideas coming from this, because it's kind of a combination of two things into one sample. So here it is. Okay, let's slow it down first. That's a bit too fast now. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so I hear two sounds here that I could play off each other, I think, if I crop them out. You can take as much of it as little as you want, really. Same idea though, stretch it out. So here we hear the kick getting stretched as well, so you might want to do a little fade or something. Maybe I'll even do this. That beat sounds cool, actually. Maybe we could go in here and do one of these. We even got an extra sound in here. That's nice. One of those happy accents are always appreciated. We hear a lot of the kick there. Ugh. That's interesting. Let's pitch these down. They feel like they need it. So yeah, once you get a sound you like, really, you just kind of play around with that then. These kind of ones that get you more texture I would use on samples that are complex, you know. The first two are kind of more for either drums by themselves or, you know, melodies by themselves. Obviously you can use them all wherever, and it's all kind of the same principle, but I find I get the best results when I kind of have a combination of things. Even hear this little sound here. You can even use that as like a little drum fill. I mean, most of my sound design is kind of by doing things like this and then finding little other parts, like mistakes almost. So that sounds like a bit different to what we heard back there a second ago. Probably because this is like that. Or maybe it's because... yeah, it's because the OTTs are on it. You get the idea though. You can kind of do it like that as well. Alright, so I wanted to show you final examples in like a practical sense of where you'd actually use them in a song or something. So I have a song here called I Deserve from my upcoming album. Should be out soon, hopefully. I've been saying that for a while now, but still. Yeah, so there's a few examples. One is right at the intro here. I have a riser that's like... so that's like extremely stretched. Kind of gives a nice texture. That's kind of what I like to use the time stretching for as well. It's kind of filling in gaps, making transitions, making textures. I think it's very good for that. So yeah, then this middle part sounds like this. Sorry, my CPU is shitting the bed there because it's quite a big project. But anyway, so I have this sound here, which as you can see is beats, kind of gives that really glitchy sound. Then I kind of took a snippet of that and pitched it around to make a melody then. Then I also have this, which as you can see is on 999. Yeah, so that's super stretched. This as well. Yeah, I also have it. This as well. This sound effect too. They're all the same, I think. When you combine all that together, I'll give you a little preview. I'll just go from here. Fucking hell. My CPU cannot handle this, guys. Alright, this is not working, so I'll just throw the snippet in here for you to listen to rather than trying to play it from the project session. You get the idea though. Time stretching, very good. No time stretching, very bad.